Welcome. This is your first lecture for Instant Revit, a quick and easy guide to learning Autodesk Revit 2019. My name is Dave Martin. I'm the instructor, or I should say author of the book. So I'm going to go ahead and start by opening up Revit 2019. And we're going to start by going through the interface first. This is the first few pages of the book. So we'll talk a bit about the opening screen as well as the different portions of the Revit interface. So I've already started Revit, so you can see the splash screen that popped up here. And then we have our opening screen here, which gives us quick links to recently opened projects. This is I just reinstalled Revit, so this will be a clean install of the software. So this should be exactly what you will see on your screen. The only difference would be if you've opened up projects already, you might see some different links here, but this is the standard opening screen. So let's go ahead and just open up a default project using the default interface. We're not going to start drawing just yet. That'll happen in the next tutorial. So I'm going to go ahead and click New here under Projects, and then it's going to prompt me for a template file. I'm just going to use the default template. So I clicked on the Browse button, and this opens up the US Imperial folder. These are where all the standard templates are for the program. So when I started the residential project, or when I start the residential project, I'll be using the residential default template. Now, if you're using these, if you're viewing these tutorials, but you have a different version of Revit installed, let's say you're in another country and you're using the metric system, you should, in order for the template file to match what was used for the book, use the one that I have on the website. So I've just copied my version of the residential default and put that on the website for you to use. Okay, but for now I'm just going to click default and then OK. And this will take us into the Revit program. Now the version I'm using is the commercial version. You may be using the student version, so it'll say student version or something like that up here at the very top. If that's the case, that's fine. The interface and the program is pretty much the same program. I don't know of any differences between the commercial and the educational release. So if you're a current student at a community college or high school or university, you are entitled to download the student version of Revit from the Autodesk website, and they give you a 3-year license for free. So that's a pretty good deal. So anyway, I paused the software for a moment while the interface fully opened. So here we are at the Revit 2019 interface. So this is what you'll see in the book also. But up here at the top is our ribbon panel, they call it. Up above that is the quick access toolbar. And then over here on the left is the properties dialog. Let me expand this out a little bit so you can see it better. A little tough to grab that. And then one of the changes they made from the previous version of Revit is they've added these view tabs. So this will allow you to switch quickly between different views of your project or different files. You can have more than one Revit file open at a time. So this is just the default template that I've opened, or a new project based on the default template. So you can see over here in the project browser that there's not a whole lot here. When we start the residential project, you'll see many more floor plan templates and that kind of thing. Okay. So once again, up here at the top left is the quick access toolbar. I'm not going to go over every single tool, but I'll hit the major ones. The way I teach Revit is typically I'll just cover the tools as they're needed so you can see how they're used in context. Doesn't do much good for the student to learn the meaning of every tool if they're not actively using it. So that'll be how the book is going to go also. So over here is the Revit icon. Then we have the open command. This is for saving a file, and you can add more commands to this, but I'm not going to do that for the purpose of keeping the default template available. But you can customize this with any tool you want. You can also click here on this down arrow, and that'll allow you to turn off and on other tools. So like, for example, if you wanted to add the new tool, you could just click here and it would add the new icon over here. But I'm going to leave that off. Anyway. And then on the upper right of the screen is the info center, they call it. So you can see here I've logged in under my Autodesk account. It's called Instant Revit. You can also do that. In fact, you're going to need to do that near the end of the residential book, because I'm going to show you a method to create renderings using their cloud rendering service, which for students is free. You get unlimited rendering for free. But if you get stuck on a command and you want to find out more information about it, you can click in this box here, and that'll open up another tab with help files, or it'll open up a website, and it'll go to the topic on the Autodesk site for that particular command. And then over here, you can sign in and out of the of your account. You can also manage the license. So if you click here on Manage License, it'll give you information about the license. You can click here on this tab, and it tells you what the expiration date and that kind of thing is. I bought a month license here, but you can change the license type here. If you're using a commercial version and you want to switch over to an educational version, you can do that here as well. Okay, let's see. So down here below the Quick Access Toolbar, we have the different tabs, I call them. So this is the Architecture tab, which contains all the basic tools you're going to need to do a three-dimensional design of a building. Then we have the Structure tab. This deals specifically with structural aspects of Revit. In the past, they had three different programs. They had Revit Architecture, Revit Structure, and then MEP. They've since, in the last few years, they've combined all that into one program. So it's just called Revit now. So this is the Steel tab. So this comes with the default installation, by the way. So you can do like connections, plates, bolts, welds, that kind of thing. We're not going to be using this in this book. Then we have Systems. That deals with HVAC, plumbing, and electrical, or MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Insert. This is if you want to insert images or import CAD drawings into Revit. We won't be doing any of that, but we will be using this tab to insert images and also load families from the Revit Families folder and also from the website files. Annotate is used for dimensioning and notes and text, as well as keynoting and tagging. We'll get into that a little bit later. Analyze, we're not going to use that much. This is more if you're doing some sort of, if you're analyzing your model for structural or for HVAC, ducting, that kind of thing. Massing and site, this is used for topography and also adding site components such as parking spaces, as well as trees and people and that kind of thing to your site. We'll get into this in a later tutorial. Collaborate is used to collaborate with someone else on your model. If you're working for a business, you will probably be working with a group of people on a design, so this allows you to collaborate between different users to draft and design the model. We're not going to be using that in this book. You'll be pretty much on your own for this. Then View. This is used for rendering, templates, revisions, creating new sheets, that kind of thing. You can also switch windows here, but this same tool is available up here at the top as well. And this is also, this Close Inactive Windows is a new type of tool that we'll use occasionally when we want to clean up what views are open for multiple projects or multiple views. Then we have Manage. This allows you to access the materials dialog, object styles. There's also some MEP, additional settings, and design options. We'll be using the design options tool when we get into the book. And then add-ins, this is just extra tools you can add into the program. Like, for example, if you wanted to create a 3D model or a 3D print of your model and you have a 3D printer available, you can add in the tool that's used to convert your model into an STL file so that you can create a plastic or three-dimensional model of your building. And then lastly is modify. We'll be using this quite a bit. And you're going to see this tab come up also in relation to the current command you're in. So if you access the tool, it'll show an additional tab. It's called a contextual tab that will have the word modify along with the tool name. Okay. So for example, if I clicked on the wall tool here, let's do that. So as soon as I clicked on the wall tool, I'll wait for it to load here. It's acting a little slow today. There we are. So even before I start clicking points for the wall, you'll see that you have this light green tab. So this allows me to use this tool and then modify it based on these tools here. So for example, if I draw the wall and then I want to stop, let me just cancel out of that. I can still do things like aligning, offsetting, moving, copying, those kind of things. And then if I want to get completely out of this contextual tab, I can either hit the escape key, which works just like in AutoCAD if you're an AutoCAD user, or you can just click over here on the modify tab and that'll take you out of the contextual tab. But I think it's a lot faster just to click the escape key a couple of times. So we talked about view tabs here. So let me show you how this works. I'm going to go ahead and start another file. So let me just click on the file menu, new, and then I'll just start another default, another file with the default template. So this is just like what we did on the opening screen. So now you're going to see that we have two separate files open. So in the past, you had to go up here to the switch windows and pick whatever file you wanted to access. Now with this view tab, you can click and switch back between the two files. The only snag with this is you have to mouse over this in order to see which file they're talking about. So this is level 1 in project 2, and this is level 1 in project 1. So you can see the difference here when the wall came up. So that's just, but it's still quicker, I think, than going up here to switch windows and switching between two separate files. Now, remaining in the project 1 file, let me just go to a different view. I'll just go to the site view. Okay, so here's my site view. So now you can see there's a third tab here. So this is still in project 1, but now I'm in the site view. Whereas over here in this first tab, I'm in project 1, level 1. So what this means is I can switch between either two different views of the same project, or I can switch from one project to another quickly. Now let's say, for example, I had accessed a whole bunch of different views. In fact, let me just open up a couple more views here. So you can see I've opened up quite a few different tabs of the same project. Now let's say, for example, I want to close down everything but one tab in each view or each project. I can go ahead and click here on the close inactive windows, and you can see it takes me back to the most recently opened view, and also it still has project 2 available as well, or project 1 available. Okay, and we'll get more into this a little bit later as well. So the properties dialog, let me tear this off so you can see it better. This is based on whatever command you're in. So for example, let me go back to my level 1 floor plan, and then I'm going to click on the wall tool again. So I'll just draw a couple walls here. So now if I click on the wall, this gives me properties of the wall itself. So this tells me that I'm using a basic wall, generic 8-inch thick wall, and then down here are all the different parameters they're called. So that if you're used to drawing in AutoCAD, this is a lot different. They have a properties menu in AutoCAD as well, but the walls in 2D AutoCAD are just two parallel lines. In this case, we're actually drawing a three-dimensional wall. So for example, if I switch over here to the 3D view out of the Quick Access Toolbar, let's click on that. So now you can see I've got this three-dimensional view of these same elements. So if I went to top, I have a similar looking view. Okay, let's return back to level 1. Okay. So now if I wanted to dock this back over here on the left, I can do that by just dragging it by the title bar and then carefully, there we go. You have to move it very slowly until it locks into place, and then I can stack these on top of each other. And then we have the project browser. So this is like a model tree that they've called it in other programs. So this shows different view categories such as floor plans, ceiling plans, 3D views, elevations, legends, quantities, schedules, that kind of thing. So as we progress through the project, you're going to see this starting to fill up with more information. So now if I wanted to dock this down below, I would just put my cursor right below the properties dialog, and now it's stacked on top of one another. So this is pretty much going to be the way that I have this set up throughout all the projects. Down here at the bottom left is the view control bar. So this changes the scale of the view to various architectural type scales, or you can create your own. This controls the detail level. We're not going to really be able to see anything different here because of the nature of the elements, but you can change from coarse, medium to fine. Then we have display modes or graphic display options, so you can do wireframe. Hidden line is what we're in right now. If I went to shaded, you can see I have a color view of those same walls. Then we have sun paths, shadows, cropping, and so forth. I'm not going to, we'll get into these as we progress through as well. It's a lot of information to take in all at once. Below that is the status bar. So like if you're adding a wall, let's say, look down here to prompt yourself to know what to do next. So if I click a point here, you can see it tells me to either enter the wall endpoint, or if I hit the space bar, it'll change orientation of the wall. Next to that is the status bar. We won't really be using this until we get into design options. So this area is for the different design options. This allows you to have two different types of designs within the same file. And then this area over here is for work sets. This is for when you're using Revit with other designer drafters collaboratively. So we're not going to be using that in this case. And then the far right is the status bar. We're not going to be really using these tools too much, but this one we'll be looking at quite a bit. This tells us how many elements are selected. So like for example, if I selected all 3 of these elements, it tells me I have 3 elements selected. And if you click on that, it'll open up the filter dialog. That's what that icon's supposed to be, as a filter. It looks more like a funnel, but same difference, I suppose. But this will tell you what type of elements you've selected and how many there are of each one. Then we have the nav bar on the right. If I click here on 2D, this will drag out the steering wheel, they call it. And this allows me to zoom in and out. I can also rewind back to views, and I can pan. You can do a similar thing with your mouse. So you can't really see this, but I'm using the mouse wheel to zoom in and out. So if you move the wheel up and down, you can zoom in and out. You can also double click on the wheel and that will fit your view. If you click and hold on the middle mouse button, that'll pan. You can also right click and get to the different zoom tools as well. Okay, about done here. Some different file options. Let's go over here to the file menu. So they used to have this associated with the Revit icon, but now you just click on the file menu, and this allows you also to open up a new file or an existing file, save and save as. You can export out. For example, when I was doing the screenshots in the book, I used export images and animations, and I could export the image of whatever was on the screen at whatever pixel size I wanted. So if you wanted to do a high-res screenshot of your view, you can do it that way as well. And later on, we'll show you also how to do PDF files. And then also within the file menu is the options button. You won't have to really change anything here, but this is if you have issues with your graphics card, or if you want to change the file locations, but the default file locations will work just fine. And then you can also control settings for your view cube, that kind of thing. We're not going to really need to visit this, but under the general button, you can set your save interval. So Revit does not automatically save your file, but it will prompt you every 30 minutes to save. So that's almost as good. Anyway, let me cancel out of that. And then that's pretty much it. So we'll talk more about the interface later. So your next tutorial, we're going to be starting the warm-up projects. So we're going to be starting with a simple 2D version of a single-story house, and we'll work our way through that. It'll probably take about 3 different lectures for that one, and then we'll just keep working our way through the book. So I hope you enjoy this. I hope you enjoy the videos and the book, and please feel free to contact me if you have any suggestions. My email is in the book. It's instantrevit@gmail.com. So we'll see you for the next tutorial.